Did you know you could save up to $600 a year in maintenance costs just by running 0W-20 oil? Sounds like easy money, right? But here's the problem. After comparing 50 real-world engines on 0W-20 versus 5W-30, mechanics found a very real downside, one that can quietly kill your engine years earlier than it should. These weren't pretty lab tests. These were engines from cars driven in brutal real-world conditions, stop-and-go traffic, heat, cold, towing, abuse. And what they found proves that manufacturers haven't been fully honest with you. Stay with me until the end because I'll show you the oil switching strategy that mechanics use to make engines last 4, 5, even 10 times longer without giving up fuel economy completely. Section 1. What those oil numbers really mean, 0W-20 versus 5W-30. Most drivers think oil is just 0W-20 good, 5W-30 bad, or vice versa. Reality? 60% of drivers are unknowingly running the wrong oil for how and where they drive. That's why some engines start failing around 100,000 miles, while other people drive the exact same model to 400,000 plus miles with no major issues. The difference is often the oil weight. On every oil bottle, you see two numbers like 0W-20 or 5W-30. Those numbers describe how thick or thin the oil is, its viscosity at different temperatures. The number before the W, which stands for winter, shows how the oil behaves in cold temperatures. The number after the dash is the viscosity at normal operating temperature, around 212 degrees Fahrenheit. These grades are standardized by the Society of Automotive Engineers, SAE, so that oil doesn't thicken, solidify, or form wax crystals in cold weather and destroy your engine during startup. If you run the wrong viscosity in winter, oil can move too slowly or in extreme cases barely move at all. That's when metal parts grind against each other and your engine can quite literally seize and die. In our example, 0W-20 means flows like a zero-weight oil in winter, behaves like a 20-weight oil at operating temperature 5W-30, flows like a 5-weight oil in winter, acts like a 30-weight when hot. A 0W oil is extremely thin when cold, almost like water. That's good for cold starts because it gets to critical engine parts very quickly, reducing metal-on-metal contact when the engine first fires up. 0W oils can still flow at around minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. 5W oils are also winter-rated and flow well, but they're slightly thicker and typically good down to about minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. At operating temperature, 0W-20 stays thinner than 5W-30. That means it flows easier, reduces pumping losses, can improve fuel economy. But here's the catch. Thin oil is fantastic for cold starts and potentially dangerous for hot, heavily loaded engines. And that's exactly what the 50 engine test exposed. Section 2. The 50 engine test. Multiple automakers claimed 0W-20 was ideal for fuel savings, but the independent 200,000-mile real-world test told a different story. Half the engines ran 0W-20, half ran 5W-30 with identical maintenance. Yes, 0W-20 delivered around 2.4% better fuel economy, about $125 to $185 per year. But that's where the benefits ended. Over time, engines using 0W-20 had 42% more bearing wear, 24% more cam wear, and 31% more cylinder scoring. They also consumed 28% more oil by around 150,000 miles because thinner oils leak and evaporate faster under heat. Meanwhile, 5W-30 maintained thicker protection films and cleaner pistons under heavy load. The conclusion, 0W-20 is better for MPG, but 5W-30 is better for long-term durability. Saving a bit at the pump isn't worth risking a $5,000 engine repair. Section 3. Why automakers push 0W-20. Here's the part most people never hear. The same engine often uses 5W-30 in Europe or Japan, but 0W-20 in the US and Canada. That difference isn't just about engineering, it's about regulations and money. In the US, CAFE fuel economy standards fine automakers when their fleet MPG falls short. Switching the fleet to 0W-20 nudges fuel economy just enough to dodge massive penalties. Between 2011 and 2020, manufacturers paid over $1.1 billion in fines. Thin oils helped cut that bill. Some brands like Toyota and GM have quietly admitted 0W-20 was largely about meeting government targets, not maximizing engine life. As rules change, recommendations will slowly shift again. The takeaway: oil choices are influenced by compliance and cost, not just what's best for your engine. Section 4. Why viscosity matters. So much engine oil isn't just there so parts don't squeak. It has 4 critical jobs. It lubricates moving parts, cools hot components, cleans sludge and contaminants, and protects against corrosion and rust. Modern engines have extremely tight clearances, so if oil gets too thin or its additives break down, that protective film collapses. The result can be cracked bearings, overheated pistons, clogged oil passages, or heavy sludge that even an engine flush can't fix. Thicker oils generally maintain film strength better at high temperature and under heavy load. That's why viscosity isn't just a number on a label. It largely determines whether your engine survives years of real-world abuse or fails long before it should. Section 5. When 0W-20 actually makes sense. 0W-20 absolutely has a place. It shines in cold climates, short light-duty trips, and newer engines designed with very tight clearances. In freezing conditions, it flows instantly and dramatically reduces cold start wear, the moment when most engine damage occurs. It's also a solid choice if you're disciplined about changing oil every 5,000 miles or less. In that window, its additive package is still strong, and it can do its job well. If you don't tow, don't floor it often, and mostly drive in moderate temperatures, 0W-20 can be an excellent option that gives you good protection and decent fuel savings. Section 6. When you should avoid 0W-20. The trouble starts when 0W-20 is used in conditions it wasn't meant for. If you live in very hot or desert climates, that thin oil can become too weak at high temperatures. The same goes if you tow, haul heavy loads, climb mountains, or drive aggressively at higher RPMs. Those situations demand a stronger oil film, often 5W-30, 10W-30, or even heavier, depending on what your manual allows. And as engines age past 100,000 miles, internal clearances naturally grow. That's why many manuals recommend stepping up to 5W-30 or thicker in older engines. Thin oil isn't inherently dangerous. It just becomes risky when heat, load, or mileage push it beyond its comfort zone. Section 7. The heat problem, 0W-20's kryptonite. Even high-quality synthetic 0W-20 has limits. It's typically designed to handle roughly minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which covers most operating conditions. But deep inside modern engines, especially turbocharged and direct-injected ones, local temperatures can spike far higher. Around the piston rings and cylinder walls, combustion gases can drive oil temps up near 480 degrees Fahrenheit. At that point, 0W-20 can thin out too much, start to evaporate, or even coke into hard carbon deposits. That leads to ring sticking, more friction, and more scuffing. In contrast, at temps above about 250 degrees Fahrenheit, 5W-30 can maintain up to 50% greater film thickness than 0W-20. That extra cushion is why the 50 engine test found more piston damage in engines running thin oil. If you want an engine to survive far beyond 200,000 miles, that added protection really matters. Section 8. Does switching oil weights damage your engine? The idea that switching oil weights will destroy your engine is mostly myth. Even manufacturers have changed viscosity recommendations midstream, like when Nissan dealers moved from 5W-30 to 0W-20 after new guidance. Most owners' manuals include a viscosity chart with multiple acceptable options based on climate and use. 0W-20, 5W-20, 5W-30, 10W-30, 10W-40, and so on. They'll often note that thicker oil is preferred for hot weather, towing, or other severe service. The number on your oil cap is usually the default, not the only choice, especially once you're out of warranty. The same engine running thicker oil in another country proves that When done within the manual's range, switching is not only safe, it's often smart. Section 9. Why 5W-30 is a turbo's best friend. Turbochargers live in a brutal environment. They spin at 150,000 to 250,000 RPM, see exhaust gas temperatures over 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, and internal part temps around 930 degrees Fahrenheit. Most turbo failures come down to oil issues, starvation, contamination, or oil that breaks down from heat. In those conditions, a thicker oil like 5W-30 is a huge advantage. Tests show it can reduce high-temperature wear by more than 20% compared to 0W-20 and provide roughly 45% more film thickness at extreme temps. That extra margin can be the difference between a turbo that lasts the life of the car and one that fails early, costing $4,000 to $8,000. If your manual allows 5W-30 for your turbo engine, especially for severe service, it's often the smarter long-term choice once you're no longer bound by strict warranty rules. Section 10. The mechanic's strategy for choosing the right oil. The real conclusion from the 50 engine test is simple. There is no one perfect oil for everyone. 0W-20 isn't automatically wrong, and 5W-30 isn't automatically right. Good mechanics don't pick oil based on hype. They pick it based on how you drive, where you live, and how old the engine is. Here's the blueprint. Start with the owner's manual. Don't just read the cap. Study the viscosity chart and the notes for towing, hot climates, and severe service. Match oil to climate. Thinner oils like 0W-20 or 0W-30 for cold winters. Step up to 5W-30, 10W-30, or 5W-40 for hot summers or hard driving if the manual allows it. Use the right certifications. Make sure the oil meets your engine's required API and GF6 specs, especially for modern direct injection and turbo setups. Run full synthetic. It holds up better to heat, cold, and time than conventional or blends. Then change it about every 5,000 miles or 6 months. Adjust for mileage. As engines age and clearances grow, a slightly thicker grade or a high-mileage formula can make sense, as long as leaks and consumption are under control. That's the mechanic's secret. Use the thinnest oil that still protects properly for your real-world conditions, not just what looks good on a fuel economy chart. And remember, choosing the right viscosity is only step one. If you really want your engine to run cleaner, quieter, and longer, the next move is understanding which additives actually help and which ones quietly destroy your engine.